Joining me now in studio is the man who has brought Americans the very latest from the front lines since this conflict began. Former IDF spokesperson and Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. He is now senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. It's a nonpartisan institute focusing on national security and foreign policy. Colonel, great to have you here. I want to start with this raid overnight at this hospital in Gaza. It's the only working hospital in Gaza. The IDF said it had intelligence that hostages were being held there, that Hamas fighters were there. What did the IDF find? Any hostages, any Hamas fighters?
Lots of Hamas fight. First of all, thank you for having me. Pleasure being here in the studio after many months of being in Israel.
Satellite, yes.
Exactly. You know, it's well documented and well proven by Israel that Hamas systematically uses hospitals as bases for military operations, which is totally in contravention to humanitarian law and the laws of armed warfare. The Nasser hospital in southern Gaza is unfortunately, sadly, no different. And there are reports, not yet verified, but reports of DNA belonging to Israeli hostages found at the hospital. And there were dozens of Hamas combatants who fought and then surrendered from within the Nasser hospital compound.
So where is the proof? I mean, as always, so much is in contention here. You mentioned that it does violate international war rules to use a hospital, as Hamas has done, as a place to store arms or to fight from. It is also against international rules on warfare that you attack a hospital. So why hasn't the IDF yet shown us the people they arrested, the Hamas fighters they arrested, and still, where is that DNA? Where are those hostages' remains that they hope to find?
Fair questions, but let's keep in mind that there's a track record here. The IDF said the same thing about the Shifa hospital, about the Qatari hospital, about the Turkish and the Indonesian hospital. And each and every hospital the IDF eventually took, there was fighting there. Hamas used it in order to fight, and there were underground compounds in each and every one of them, and we've showed video footage of all of it. The story of Nasser Hospital won't be different. In a few days or hours of time, there will be video footage out, and then I hope that people can see and really acknowledge the fact. Then, you know, it really is sad that Hamas is using these sensitive locations, abusing the fact that there are civilians there who really are in need of medical attention, and Hamas goes there, fights from those locations, hoping that they'll be safe from the IDF, but the IDF has been very clear about it. Wherever you are, we'll go after you.
Netanyahu has warned that they are about to launch a military land action into Rafah, a massive southern city where more than half the residents of Gaza, 2.3 million residents in Gaza, have now taken shelter. President Biden today warned him not to launch the offensive in Rafah until the hostages are released. He made the point that these aren't just Israeli hostages, some of them are American as well. Take a listen.
By the way, we're in a situation where there are American hostages. American citizens are being held hostage. It's not just Israelis, it's American hostages as well.
And yet Netanyahu continues to ignore Biden and say, we're going to go ahead with this invasion of Rafah. We are, and today even reiterating again, no way on a two-state solution, which not just the United States, but the entire world, and especially Arab leaders, have said is necessary in order to achieve a lasting peace.
Lots to unpack here. Let's do the first tactical thing. I don't know what the president's statement is based on, but I haven't seen any hostages released by Hamas over the time, other than when there were deals. Hamas has made extremely outlandish claims that are basically non-starters. They see the pressure from around the world, and they're trying to use that in order to basically survive by using these poor Israelis that they have been holding on to for more than 4 months.
Israelis and Americans.
Indeed, but they were taken because they're Israelis, and they were taken from Israel. And it's great that the U.S. wants to be part of helping, but when it comes to helping, then what we have to be clear about is that Hamas is just using them in order to try to survive. Hamas are trying to get a long ceasefire so that they'll be able to continue and live the day after. And I don't think that this is really about Netanyahu, and I don't think that stopping the fighting will get the hostages released. I don't think that Israel really has a choice, but actually to go into Rafah, take and release hostages, just like Israel did last week. A first successful operation into Rafah, where, by the way, these two Israeli hostages were held in a civilian apartment. Now, you also addressed the two-state solution. A question for all of those who allegedly support it. Who would be the representatives of the Palestinians? Because according to the Palestinians themselves, polling that has been done over the last half year, the #1 political party preferred by Palestinians is Hamas, with tremendous approval ratings, both in PA-controlled areas, in Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, exactly, and in Gaza. So when you ask if we're going to do a two-state solution, with whom? With Hamas, that genocidal organization?
Well, I think right. That remains to be worked out. But the point is just to be open down the line to a two-state solution.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.